first thing I want to ask you, Chris, is what's your three biggest ingredients of success?
Three ingredients for success are probably working hard but on the right thing, enthusiasm about what you're doing, and persistence, patience, playing the long game, and consistency.
Yeah. Love what you said about working hard on the right thing, choosing the right thing to work hard on. That's for sure, because you can work very hard on the wrong thing. Uh,
God, tell me about it. I think it's one of the things. It's like you put the work in, but it's got to be something that you're going to set
mm,
yourself up for a chance of success in as well.
yeah. And just to give our audience a super top level understanding of your path, Chris, like if you were to give some sort of chapter titles to your past so far, what would the main ones be?
The main ones would be grew up in a small market town, loved food, obsessed with food, didn't know I'd ever work in it because of limited opportunities where I was living, dabbled with athletics, would love to have done that as a career, had my own small businesses growing up, and then through chance ended up winning a TV show on BBC for Home Cooks in 2016, moved to London, worked in a Michelin star restaurant for a bit, left London, and then I guess a chapter of hustle, like small jobs, working for different people, turning up for free to things and making connections. And then I got a dream job of becoming the sort of face of Marks and Spencer's and the resident chef there, which I did for 4 years. Subsequently went on to release a cookbook, do more stuff on TV, build a social audience and a community, and become an ambassador for a brand called Hexclad. And I get to work with some amazing brands like Aston Martin, and more recently leaning into the fitness space with a couple of men's fitness covers under my belt. So quite a diverse career in the last 10 years, but all to do with things that I'm passionate about.
Mm, yeah, sounds like you took quite a different path as well from as a chef, as a cook in the industry. It's, you can go a lot of different directions, and you made a decision quite early on in yours. And I wanted to get into this part because I relate to it a lot, because for me, the hardest part wasn't leaving the kitchen I was in, but letting go of this somewhat identity that I built inside it. It was stepping out of a space that I'd earned my place for 10 years of my life into this other world that no one knew who I was or particularly cared that much. It was like a time when chefs on one side, chefs saw me as a bit of a sellout, and the other side, this media world, saw me as a bit of an outsider. And, I never held it against them. And I think nor should anyone, because the ones who are meant to catch up eventually will when they understand why you're doing what you're doing. But it was this liberating reminder to self that it's not your responsibility to explain it along the way. And so I was kind of like stuck a little bit in between these two identities. And I call this my season of solitude. And that's that kind of uncomfortable place between where you were and where you're going, who you're becoming, which is often quiet and lonely for a lot of people. And I think one of the key places people don't pursue further, they either go back or they change direction or they reevaluate everything. And I think being willing to stay the ride shows you the clearest version of yourself. And when you do that, you realize that I think the potential was never really in the environment or the title, but the tools in your own perspective that you hold. And sometimes that's really what sets you apart from everybody else. And I share that because I relate to this moment of your path, and I want to dive into it and ask you what your experience was with that, because you didn't take the traditional route of the chef. And I want to know a little bit more about that time when you started and you're working in a Michelin star restaurant, and that is one path, the Michelin star madness. And you decided to go a different route, and you had an opportunity and you took it. Tell me a bit about that time.
Yeah, great to hear that. And I think I did make a decision. I had a chance to move to London to work in a Michelin star restaurant from an amazing chef friend and mentor, Atul Kocher. Dream come true when he offered me a chance to work there after meeting him on this TV show as a contestant on. And after a period of time there, I just realized, I never grew up around Michelin star food. Chasing a star or something wasn't something I aspired to do, but where I took my inspiration growing up was the guys that I watched on TV, the guys and girls cooking, inspiring me to cook. And I thought, I'm in this great city of London and I'd like to pursue a bit of that and actually try and do a little bit of education. And I took that leap, and it's a lonely time when you leave what could be seen to be the conventional route. But I think in the world we live in today, you can go and carve your own path and do what makes you passionate about. And I just think ignoring the noise on each side of, oh, he's left, he's going to do this or that, let's all just do what fulfills us. And I spent a long time in that period, years, in fact, of trying to figure it out. How's this going to work for me? And, learning as you go, continuing to cook, but through different avenues. And just, I happened to find my own groove and a way of using food in a way that fulfilled me in my career and allowed me to progress and move on. And it wasn't the conventional route, but I'm pretty proud of the fact I managed to carve out my own path. And I guess one thing is I've never claimed to have worked in France for 15 or 20 years. I'm very open about the fact I spent a bit of time in the restaurants, and I really wanted to pursue doing something of my own. And I think had I have stayed in there under pressures or what seemed to be the norm, I certainly would have regretted it. And I came down and just gave it a go.
Did you always know that that was the path you wanted to follow, or did it change or evolve as you went into it?
I always knew it was the path I wanted to follow, but I still wanted to come and gain some experience in the restaurant world. More so, it was an opportunity to get into London, this big city that I thought maybe there's a chance to really give things a go here. And yeah, you just kind of, I think as you go on in life, you realize a lot of people are just kind of making it up as they go along. And
Right.
I was
No
certainly,
one's got it figured out, right?
no one seems to have it figured out. And I just went
Mm.
with what I thought was going to excite me. And I've always been quite good about not worrying about what other people maybe have to think about what I'm doing. And just if it lights me up and I'm going to go and make an impact in my own lane, then let's go for it.
Yeah. And so it was the TV show that you'd done, would you say that was the kind of pivotal moment that opened up these other doors?
Oh, it was a massively pivotal moment. I remember I started an Instagram account just for fun, sharing food with friends. This is 2015 or something. Some guy reached out and said, I'm researching you for a show. Would you like to be a contestant? And I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. And I went down there with just a bit of fun, to be honest. And at the end of the show, I mean, Pierre Kaufman was sort of the lead judge. And then you had Atul Kutcher, who was my mentor on the show. And I ended up winning it, but more so Atul, the gentleman that he is, said, Chris, if you're not working in food at the minute, I think you can cook. Come and work for me in London. And I was a homebody, I lived in a small town until the age of 25, trying to figure things out. And this opportunity came up, and he's one of my idols. And yeah, I sort of said, when do you want me? He said, how about 2 weeks' time? I thought, yeah, let's go for it. Packed my bags, found a place to live, and started to work for him in Mayfair for a period of time. And it was just that pivotal moment of, had I have said no, my life would have gone a completely different direction. Said yes, and it's taken this course. But those small moments are really like defining in which course your life is
Right.
going to take.
Yeah. The ripple effect, right?
It really is.
And so what was the next stage after that? So you spent some time working in this Michelin star restaurant with the chef, and then what was the next thing that happened?
The next thing that happened was I was still building my presence on social media and just making connections. And I think I left the restaurant and then I actually went to work part time for a chef who's also become a great friend, Eric Landlord. Fantastic guy, French patisserie, and I was working for him in Battersea part time, and still a great friend now. But it allowed me to sort of build up this presence on social and also look at the areas that I was excited by. And I remember getting in contact with Blue Peter, and I launched them a kids cooking club idea, which I think they still run today online. And we filmed content. I went on the show and did some simple stuff. And I really realized that was what was lighting me up, inspiring other people to cook in that moment in time. And from there, I just went on to work with some really cool brands and do some nice projects. And just slowly but surely, just sort of build the profile, build the network. And then I suppose the biggest pivotal moment was landing my sort of role with Marks and Spencers. I met Shari, who's the marketing director, at an event one night, and we had a good conversation. And yeah, a couple of months later, I find myself in a field in filming on a farm where they grow these beautiful strawberries, talking about the finest British seasonal ingredients. And I did that project for between 3 and 4 years, traveling the country, meeting suppliers, producers, and really showcasing the produce that this country has to offer, and creating simple recipes for people to cook at home. And it was an incredibly successful campaign and something I'm really proud of, and that obviously elevated everything that I was doing. And I kind of felt at that moment I've sort of found my niche here and realized what excites me, because I think you've got to be doing something you enjoy, and that job was just pure passion all the way.
Right. And so that was a YouTube series, or where did that media go?
Oh, everywhere.
Everywhere.
ITV, in-store,
Right.
online, emails, digital, social media. But it was a partnership with ITV at the time, so it was going out on telly every
Yeah.
day for sort of 6 months of the year, I think, at one point.
Incredible. And I'm sure that skyrocketed your brand building and all of that.
It really did, but also my experience, you know? So I was so busy doing this project to sort of learn how to talk in front of the camera, obviously cooking at the same time, but just learning about British seasonal produce. And I think all of this stuff you soak up as a sponge on the way around. Actually, it was an education in fresh seasonal produce, which is obviously what I focus on now when I'm creating recipes and understand the importance of seasonality. So, yeah, massive success with work, but also personal. The amount I've learned, not just in the food space, but also television, marketing, media, business. And I've always been that character to sort of soak up as much as I can and immerse yourself in whatever project you're doing. And I really did. And I look back and there were some really, really fond memories. And yeah, I,
Mhm.
I loved every minute of that.
Right. And did that attract, I guess, I presume that that attracted a lot of other opportunities once people start seeing you on TV, and the offers probably started coming in, new brand deals, all that. Did that
Yeah,
take off for you at that stage?
it really did. But I always had this thing. I got a bit of advice from a friend when I started this game: only do something that you're genuinely passionate and interested in. And I remember holding off so many things in those lonely years, thinking, oh, I could get paid a little bit of money here or whatever, but it doesn't really fully align with me. And I thought that sort of thing will come back to bite me in the arse one day. So yeah, of course, opportunities start to come in, and you've just got to be incredibly selective with who you want to work with. And I've always seen these sort of projects as long-term ambassadorships where I'm a real part of the business and can help make a difference. Because I think if you're not making a difference, then for me personally, it just doesn't really feel so fulfilling. So yeah, the opportunities start to come in, and it certainly boosted my profile. And yeah, it was good times.
Yeah. Such an important part, like brand association, like you say, can come back and bite you in the ass if you take on something
Oh,
for a bigger fee or whatever, right? Yeah. What's your experience on that? And like, if you were to share any advice with other people that are maybe starting to get a little bit of limelight and probably getting lots of offers in, because I see, other people in the industry that take everything and anything,
yeah.
and suddenly they become this kind of collage of mixed identities, and you're left kind of questioning, well, what are you really about? None of them really speak to each other. I think
I
that's really
think
important.
one word: authenticity. If it's not authentic and something you genuinely love and are passionate about and would openly purchase or talk to your friends about yourself, then just don't do it. Because, well, I suppose what your motives are really, but if you want to do this for the long haul and actually enjoy what you're doing and be proud of it, I think I've always been proud with everything I do. And I think just being authentic and true to yourself is an easy rule to have, because you can't really go wrong if you know what your values are. And yeah, just don't make the quick buck.
Right. Through this whole kind of rise of Chris Baber on
Mm,
TV and social and everywhere,
mm.
obviously this is the era of your major growth and success that's on the come up. As glamorous as all that may be, I want to ask, and I'm curious about what the challenges behind that were, and what was the hardest part.
I've faced some challenges. I think, obviously working in food, I haven't done the kitchen conventional route, but it's still hard work, and you face challenges of a different style, and a lot of it is trust with individuals. I've worked with several agencies, and I'm certainly gone into it naive in the infancy of my career. But I think trusting the people that you're around is like one big lesson that I've learned. And I'm lucky now, everyone around me I can fully trust and I value. And I think that was a big lesson that I learned very quickly. Don't give people too much when it comes down to agents and stuff like that.
Interesting time whenever you start to build something, and then you have people coming through that channel. It's certainly a question of what sometimes, what is it, what is their main motivator for this? Is it to get something from you, or is it to add something to you?
Yeah, I think all of these things should just be a partnership. It should be let's work together as partners to try and grow this thing and do something amazing. And I think another, you asked what lessons I've learned, is just be patient. I remember getting this advice so often from mentors and friends that were successful. And, you think, oh, but actually you look back and think, yeah, you've just got to be patient and persistent and stay in your lane. And, you know, the opportunities will come if you just keep enthusiastic about what it is you want to achieve, and not taking the quick wins, but playing the long game, I think is probably key as well.
Tough in a world of short attention spans right now in this digital age where everything is instant gratification, right? But the old saying goes, the day you plant the seed is not the day you harvest the fruit. That's a hard one in this game because everything is so boom, 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 fast, 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 social, social, social.
Yeah.
Everything appears to be happening very fast because we're only seeing the actions that people are proud of sharing. We don't see all the seeds that are planted before that, right?
Oh, no, no, no. All of these things, everyone, "Oh, you're lucky you got that job or you get to work with them." People don't understand how much effort actually goes into getting those opportunities. But then again, it doesn't really matter what people think, but as long as you know yourself, you're sowing the seeds every day, they'll, keep watering them and they'll come back, they'll grow.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone that is a chef and maybe they want to get into TV? What would be the critical steps that they could follow?
Advice I give to someone that wants to get into TV is probably know what value you can add when you're gonna show up. I haven't done mountains of television, but from what I understand, I had a very clear message about what I wanted to deliver. And another key thing is, like, the way in is generally having something to sell. A cookbook's probably a great way to make a break with that. But then again, I think the world's changed so much. When I first came to London 10 years ago, I think that traditional media and television was certainly the route that everyone wanted to do. But social media now, you can build your own channel, build your own audience, and arguably get more eyes on it than you would through conventional television. So I think it's not just like going all in on that goal, but probably trying to build that presence through social media as well and creating your own channel. But it's just insane how quickly things are actually changing day by day.
Yeah, there's no more gatekeeping anymore. That's I think the incredibly liberating thing is there's no more gatekeeping. That's before, as you said, you would have had to follow that route of, schmoozing and boozing with people to network with the right person that works for BBC or blah blah blah, go through the whole PR route. But now you're right, you can totally build that on your own in this realm of social media. But whatever channel it was, like you sound like you've always been clear that it was important to build a brand wherever it might have been.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's like building your brand, your own personal brand, and what are your values? What do people want to come to you for? What value can you add rather than just like being a billboard on social media or something, but actually building that personal brand? And I think that word's become all the more important, but I was trying to think about that 10 years ago.
Right. And what was the moment like that you realized that that was going to be important?
I mean, to be honest, a lot of that personal branding bit comes to a great friend of mine, David Gandy, and he sort of was a pioneer in the fashion business of being the first guy to build a personal brand. Funnily enough, I met him on my first week in London. I bumped into him in the street and we had a chat weirdly, and we've actually become, he's like one of my best friends. But I remember him just telling me the story about him building this personal brand that had never been done in fashion. And he's like, always just think about that personal brand, who you are, what you stand for. And it always just, stood with me at that point. And then as you start to get the bigger positions in the media and stuff, like, you really have to know like who you are and what you're about and be able to answer questions. And I guess, why did I think it's important to be a personal brand? You really realize it when, I guess, the first time you get called up as Chris Baber or whoever you are to come and do some work, they want you, not just X to fill a space to do a specific task. And then you really start to realize, oh wow, like I really need to work on this personal brand. And I think that's not just about posting videos on the internet, but really honing in on who you are, what value you can add, and what you stand for, and why people want to come to you and work with you and, create partnerships.
Yeah. Which comes through repetition over time, especially in the social demographic, right? When everything is so easily, fastly consumed, you have to repeating your message, repeating your story, repeating the values that you stand for. I think you've done that extremely well. But, people think of you, they know that you cook and you're passionate about health and nutrition. These are big things that you know straight away about you. So I think you've done that incredibly well. what leverage does that give someone, do you think, presently and long term, when you invest in that, when you build a brand?
I think having a strong personal brand just sets you apart from the rest, and it gives people a reason to specifically come and work with you. And I think a lot of it is just built on a good reputation as well. But I think the stronger the personal brand, you're never gonna lose out.
Yeah. And has there ever been a point where you've had any challenges with that? That you've maybe went in a direction and had to adjust or reevaluate or change direction? Or have you always been clear exactly what your personal brand was before you started building it?
I think I've been pretty clear because it's just authentic to me and who I am. Never tried to be someone I'm not. I think it's always just course correcting, and we evolve and change over time as people, and just noticing those little moments, and always like just, having to think about where you're going, where you're heading, where you need to maybe turn slightly, but fundamentally never had any problems because I think, as we spoke about at the start of the podcast, that authenticity of who you are, if you're authentically yourself, you can't really trip over your own feet kind of thing.
You mentioned the cookbook earlier,
Mm.
and that as a segue into that world. When do you think's the right time to create a cookbook?
For me personally, it's when you've got the right idea and when you've got the right team behind you, because I was offered so many book deals for the first cookbook and they all wanted a hook. Is it vegan? Is it this? Is it that? They were so clear on wanting something so niche that just wasn't me. And I turned down so many things, and finding someone that just clearly wanted to work with what I was genuinely passionate about and the right people that would help talk about that and promote that and PR it. Like, I think the right time is when you've got the right idea and the people you're working with really want to back that idea. Don't just do it because you've been sort of backed into a corner to do a specific thing. And I think a lot of people are getting these offers now.
Yeah, takes a lot of self-belief, that I think, being able to turn down something in the pursuit of something that's potentially uncertain. You don't know yet, right? You talk about patience.
I think as well, I always just think, what's the rush? If you're genuinely in it for the long term, waiting until you've got the right idea, that you've got to remember, you're the best salesperson for your own cookbook, right? So if you've got something that you're truly passionate about and know and love, and it's you inside out, then that's going to be really easy for you to talk about. Whereas someone asked me to do a 4 ingredient vegan book, the money or something could be great, but ultimately I'm going to stand and struggle to promote it and actually feel proud about doing that. So when you've got the right idea and the right team, I think that's the time to sort of run with it.
Right. And did you ever feel like, I'm not ready for this? Or did you always have that level of self-belief?
I always had that level of self-belief. I think I took a punt on 10 years ago, coming down to give this whole thing a go. And I was just like, this is really what I want to do. I'm fully in on this, and certainly have the pinch me moments, but it's always just felt right. And I remember that first moment standing, filming with ITV and standing in this field and all these cameras around me and stuff. And I didn't feel nervous. I thought this just feels great. And when it went, it was like, what I've always found is just, I'm talking about things I love, something I'm passionate about, and I just found it really easy to flow. And all of the projects I do, because I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing, I've never felt out of place. Yes, you have a bit of imposter syndrome, but I always feel like, yeah, I should be doing this, and I really enjoy it as well, which is key.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome. That's a
Mm.
term of the century, and very, very relevant, I think, too, in a lot of scenarios. What what advice would you have to someone that feels that, especially now, because we're in this strange place of personal brand where almost everyone feels obligated to do so. They know the potential of it. They know that it's, we all have to treat ourselves almost like a business, in that sense of marketing ourselves. Otherwise, we become irrelevant to the industry, in that long game. But that also comes with
Mm.
challenges, I think, of a lot of people who do face this
Mm.
imposter syndrome. Why should I be on a camera? Or, who am I to be talking about this, that, or the other? What sort of advice would you have to anyone that's in that place?
I think imposter syndrome is a great sign that things are going well, because growth only happens outside of your comfort zone. And I've personally found that imposter syndrome kicks in when I'm out of my comfort zone. Yes, I'm excited and doing something that I really want to be doing, but you have this kind of imposter syndrome. And I feel like that's the moment where you think, wow, I'm growing here because I'm well out of my comfort zone. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. And then it'll be the bar will raise. And the next time you feel you've got imposter syndrome will be something bigger and better or down a new avenue. So I think embrace it actually is what I would say, because it means you're doing something right in my personal opinion.
Mm. If you're the best in the room, you're in the wrong room.
That's a great saying. And I think, yeah, just always looking to surround yourself with interesting people that you can learn from. But I've certainly found imposter syndromes hit me so many times and still does, even sat here now recording a podcast about this career that I've sort of carved out for myself. It's crazy that you think one small decision can change the trajectory of your life. But every time I felt imposter syndrome, I've been out of my comfort zone and I've grown from it and hopefully become a better person and more advanced in my career because of it. And as an individual, that is, because I think it's not just about being an imposter syndrome in work, but actually the rooms you're in, the people you're talking to, and I think it happens to everyone. And the more people I speak to that are successful, they feel it too. And I think it's something that is really just a signal that I'm going to grow here from this experience.
You're on the right path.
Mm.
Yeah, building that resilience over time, which is, we talk about career and success and this pursuit on that, but it all comes back to self, whether it's professionally or personally, in relationships or in business partnerships. The same principles, right? I think they're all skills that lend well to life in the long term. Talking about books,
Mm.
what's the formula for a chef to publish? Like, did you self-publish or you work with a publisher? What was the steps from start to finish?
What's the route to doing a cookbook? I think there's a couple. Number one is if you've got a huge audience and a dedicated following and community, you might well just be approached. Other ways and means of doing it are self-publishing. So you can actually create a book, publish it yourself. And the other one is to create a proposal, take it to different publishers or get a literacy agent. And the literacy agent can help you work and tweak and develop that idea, your passion, into something that tweak it so the market are going to like it, take it to different publishers and hopefully get a good offer. But I think, yeah, just start to put ideas down onto paper, and use feedback from your audience and what they're into, what do they find helpful? Because effectively, a cookbook for me, it's like, how am I solving a problem? I want to make cooking easy and accessible, affordable. So I'm trying to problem solve with the sort of cookbook I've done. So I think the more value it can add to someone's life, just kind of have that in the back of your mind. If you want a book that people are going to buy.
Very helpful advice. Going into sidestep from a book, talking about magazines for a second, cooking obviously is this one
Yeah.
whole thing over here.
Yeah.
Men's health and fitness is somewhat of a, it's a different audience, a different world, it's a different lens being looked through. And I'm kind of wondering, how that shaped your perception once you done these magazines, how you feel that impacted your brand and
Mm.
the impacts it had along the way.
I think, yeah, so Men's Fitness, done a couple of covers, and surreal to go and pick up the magazine that I used to buy at 13, 14 years old to try and learn about training. To be on the cover is just unbelievable. But I think that perception piece, it really allowed me to talk about one of my true passions outside of food. Growing up, athletics was a huge part of my life. And actually, I tore my patella tendon and I started to cook more at home because I couldn't run. And one of the dreams would have been to maybe be a professional athlete, and to have that avenue through Men's Fitness, such a well sought after publication, to actually talk about my experience in athletics and also how that impacted my views on food, of being an athlete, but sort of wanting to cook food that tastes amazing because I'm a foodie, and how that sort of shaped my style of cookery to what I eat every day at home. And it was just really was an outlet for me to share my sort of passion outside of my career. And it's something I'm now using to lean further into that wellness space with food. And to be able to have used a publication like Men's Fitness to do so is just incredible because of the credibility that it brings.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we talked about before, I'm, a big advocate for health, fitness, wellness, all that stuff. And I guess I know maybe a little bit more of the darker side behind that too. And in particular, and when it comes to cover shots, I think there is a little bit of a perception that that's how that individual looks all the time.
Mm.
But from what I understand, there's a process behind that, and there's a period or a season that you probably dedicated and a lot of your time and energy blood, sweat, and tears to
Yeah.
get into that shape. Is that right?
I mean, I don't want to blow my own trumpet. I'm generally in quite good shape a lot of the time because I train so consistently. I think that's the key, as we've said, like consistency with everything, and the long-term effect of being consistent in the gym is I can stay fairly trim, and I know what I'm doing as well when it comes to nutrition. But yes, certainly when you get the date in for the cover, you're going to probably alter your training, tweak the diet a tiny bit. But that's really the only time I've ever had to. I wasn't even militant with it, just make small changes to maybe
Yeah,
look a
lower
little
body fat
leaner.
percentage and all that.
Yeah, and exactly, get a tan going and all the rest of it as well. But I think for me, it just comes down to consistency. I train really hard, probably 5 to 6 days a week. I look after what I eat, but I really enjoy myself. And then when I got the date in for the cover shoot, certainly just tapering down on a few things and just getting a little leaner, a little more vascular, and getting a good tan on and a good photographer is key. I mean, we've all
Right.
seen that through social media. But yeah, it's probably not the shape everyone's in every single day of the year, put it that way.
Yeah. Do you think it's achievable for chefs to get into that shape?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, anyone can get into good shape. It just takes dedication and also research and information, which luckily now, because of social media, there is so much information out there online, readily available, whether it's diet, training, nutrition. And I think it probably doesn't take as much time as people think. I think it's consistency, doing a little bit every day over the long term will lead to good results if you're consistent with it.
Yeah, consistency beats intensity. True that. True that. Long game. And would you have three of your biggest behaviors or actions that you would advise that anyone could do that
Mm.
would have a significant output, lower input, higher output? What do you think are the three critical ones?
I mean, number one, just walking. I mean, I love walking, not just for physical health, but mental health. But I think that's one way to keep trim. Just get the walk in. You don't need to be doing HIIT classes and Barry's boot camp every week. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but I think just getting plenty of steps in every single day is a great way to keep trim. Eating a lot of protein is probably number two, because if you are trying to get in shape, having a high protein, number one, keeps you very full. And secondly, it's going to build and repair muscle. And the third one is sleep. And I know that can be difficult for people working in hospitality, but sleep's when you're going to recover. So the three very basic things: walk more, eat more protein, and get good sleep.
Yeah, the sleep ones, I think the sleep is underestimated still, even though there's still a lot of stuff out there happening now, which is great. But I think the world of hospitality is probably working that much that they maybe don't even see it half the time. But like sleep is one of those critical ones. I've just got onto the Whoop here, and I've been tracking it for the last week. It's just been kicking in, and yeah, I mean the stats are ridiculously good on it. It's so fascinating. I think from experience, spending a decade in the industry, one of the biggest things that was fucked, in my opinion, was testosterone levels in males, and that's why tradi- traditionally I had them measured. I had my testosterone levels measured, and they were massively below average. Um, And I think that's what forms a lot. Obviously, stress is a big one for affecting testosterone levels. Sleep is another one that's massive on that. But I think that's one of the biggest reasons why, people end up with this kind of pear-shaped body as a traditional chef, because a lot of the time they won't be actually consuming a lot of calories, but it's just their body reacting to their hormone imbalances or whatever it may be. But I think that's one of those ones that's hyper important. I'm 33 as of Monday, actually, and my testosterone levels are higher than they've ever been, which goes against the grain because they say after like 28 they decrease, and mine are, a third higher than they were 10 years ago, just from, I think, the two big ones of managing stress and mental resilience and sleep. So critical.
It is critical, but it's very easy to say when you're not working the crazy hours, but trying to manage it as much as you can to get more sleep. And also the stress element, I think that's massive if you're talking about testosterone levels. By no means am I an expert, but sleep, less stress, just prioritizing recovery and trying to manage stress, finding ways to manage stress as well. Rather than having beers, maybe do something different. Maybe it's exercise to manage stress, but finding what works for you. But the more sleep, the better. I think we're all guilty of not sleeping enough.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
It is a tough one to crack, of course.
Yeah.
I think it's the behaviors around it. It's like control the controllables. A mentor of mine always used to say, it's like, what can you control? Because yes, being a chef or working in food service industry is tough. You can't control, you're going to work a lot of hours. You're going to be in high pressured environments. Of course, you can build mental resilience to adapt to handling that better. But it's the behaviors outside of that because, I remember when I was in that game, anytime anyone was outside of the environment, it was related to drinking or still staying up for another 3 hours after you get home from the shift because your mind's still buzzing or whatever it is. So it's definitely leaning into those little things of the controllables because the micro differences make a difference.
Yeah, getting your diet right. We've all got to eat every
Mm,
day, and simply filling your body with nutritious food rather than junk. That's going to make a massive difference no matter who you are, what industry you work in, just in terms of your alertness, your wellness, staying hydrated. And I think sometimes it's the simplest tips that can actually make the biggest difference.
mm.
So yeah, it's like you don't
What
need
about
to
diet?
overthink it.
Like from your opinion, you're lean, you're fit as hell.
Mm.
What are a few things that really impact you on a nutritional point of view?
Yeah, good question. I think, one thing with my work and traveling around the country, meeting farmers and suppliers, like seasonal produce, I think is one way to really pack a lot of nutrition in because if you're eating with the seasons, you're eating variety. And with variety comes different fruits and vegetables as the seasons change. And then it means throughout the year, you're getting a real balance of diet, eating different colors. But generally, I just think the key thing is don't eat ultra processed food. I still do it. We all do, but just really limit it. And I think what's interesting is if you look at these countries around the world with the highest life expectancies, I believe Japan and maybe parts of the Mediterranean, they have very different diets, but the common theme is lack of ultra processed foods that are going into the diet. So I think that's one thing I've been really mindful to really try and cut out. But I love obviously to cook and eat fantastic food. And if I'm in a restaurant, I will order whatever I want. But it's controlling that at home. And like I say, I don't wear out things, but the more you cook, the more intuitive you get, the more you realize what your body responds well to and not. And I think it's really just keeping it simple. Don't fill your face full of shit and eat some like pretty fresh quality foods, a high protein diet and stay hydrated and eat a real balance as well. And also getting plenty of fiber. And I think is really, really important.
That's great advice. I think it's essentially that 80-20 rule. I think a lot of it, if the 80% of how you live and how you behave is good and what you're putting into your body, you can get away with doing whatever you want for the other 20%. Stuff in your face with a bit of whatever it is. We all do it.
We all love to eat out and have a drink. But I think it's controlling that at home and just being mindful about what you're eating. And I think keeping it simple is key. There is so much information out there. You shouldn't eat this. You can't eat that. You can't eat this at the supermarket. Just eating whole foods is generally a pretty good way to go. And also a lot of the supplementations and stuff, just do your research before you start spending a fortune as well. Because actually, I think the simpler you go, seasonal, fresh ingredients at home, you can't really go wrong. And then treat yourself when you're out. That's my kind of philosophy.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to be in this place of having so much information and education out there, but it's also creates a bit of a decision making paralysis because there's so many conflicting opinions too, and we forget that these supplement companies are, you know, millions of dollars of marketing to your businesses at the end of the day. But a lot of them all come back to that. All the people who are really behind health, like health, not just physical. Um, looks and aesthetics, but like that always comes back to that, doesn't just keeping it simple.
Keep it simple. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. And what season are you at now in terms of your health and well being, and what's your main focus?
I think I'm in a pretty good space now. When I was younger, like I say, I was wanting to be an 800-meter runner, and at that point, the intensity is insane. And I look back at the times and stuff we used to record, and I'm thinking, my God, how did I actually used to do that? And to the detriment of my knees and stuff now. But I think it took me a long time to get that balance right, and probably realize like I want to come out the gym feeling energized, not exhausted, and factoring in recovery, especially since getting into my 30s. I certainly don't recover like I did in my 20s. And I've really started to understand I want to train for longevity. Obviously, I want to be super fit and I'm relatively fit. stay in good shape, but really thinking about that recovery time, the mobility, the rehab. That's stuff I've started to educate myself on a lot more now than I used to just go and hammer it, hammer it, hammer it. So yeah, you learn, you find the balance, and yeah, it's not necessarily just what you're doing in the gym, it's the other stuff as well, trying to remove a little bit of stress and probably sleeping better, staying hydrated. But I'm in good shape. I'm in good shape now and really just thinking about recovery and longevity. They're probably the two biggest changes in the last couple of years.
What does a week look like for you in terms of that? What do you do? What do you do in terms of fitness? What do you do
Ooh.
in terms of recovery?
Yeah, great question. A week for me is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll do resistance training, full body workout. I want to be out of the gym in 45 minutes. So I'll try and hit everything and keep the intensity high, keep the heart rate up. I'm not lifting super heavy anymore because I've got a few injuries. And then probably one day I'll go for a run. One morning I'll go for a long walk, and another day I might sit on the watt bike in the gym for a bit, and I'll always have a full day of recovery. But I've certainly got better and not being too militant. Like if I need to miss a day, listening to my body a bit more now. But a typical day, 3 resistance days and 3 kind of cardio days, and just plenty of walking in between.
Nice. Sounds manageable. I like the, what you say, 45-minute sessions?
Yeah, it is manageable, and I think that's the thing with training. It's got to be manageable. I go to the gym that's closest to my home because it makes it the most convenient. I can fit it into my day, and yeah, I think fitting it into your lifestyle and 45 minutes for me, I don't need to do any more of that. I'm not training to get a world record, and it's nice to maintain a nice level of fitness and know that if I want to sign up to do a charity event, then I can really put the training in for that.
And so that's in the physical realm of your fitness. I'd love to know about like mental health side of things. Do you do anything? Do you have any rituals or things that you do or practice that keeps you sweet?
Yeah, mental health, something super important to me, and it's also close to my heart. I've lost a few friends to suicide and subsequently become an ambassador for a lovely charity called Better, which is about mental health awareness and suicide prevention in men. And personally, I've lost 4 friends to suicide, and that was all before the age of 27, which is horrific. So it's something I'm very in tune with, and I've certainly tried to make positive steps to look at my mental health. And I think the biggest one is just chatting to people about it and doing activities that make you feel good, and even just walking around on my own, or it might be meeting up friends, just really simple things. But I'll tell you something, cooking I found at home to be such a experience of like mindfulness, because you're so focused on that one task. Even if it's something simple, you just fully consumed by that activity. And I think there's so many little ways to look after our mental health. And it doesn't mean, for me personally, like going to therapy or joining a class or doing a meditation, but just simple things that just keep me going. But I think the most important thing is talking amongst friends that you trust.
Mm, that's a big one.
Mm.
The environment you surround yourself with, the circle that you choose to be around. I think that some people forget that that is a choice, because we are often conditioned by the environment that we are born into without ever realizing that we have the opportunity to change it. I think that was definitely a big one that came to me in my upbringing. Was definitely a different path than I chose to be on much later in life. And I wondered, have you ever been in a place where you've had to change or let go of things, people, or opinions that held you back?
Without doubt. And I think there's sort of those moments in life where you can start to notice that maybe the crowd you're in, nothing wrong with that crowd. They're happy doing what they're doing, but is it the direction I want to be going? And is it the sort of thinking I want to be doing? And I think, especially in my early days in London, trying to find your group of people, I always thought to myself, I'd rather be on my own than be with the wrong crowd. And it took me a long time. And yeah, to be honest, I spent a lot of time being very lonely. And it took me a while, but then I built a really small group of great friends that are thinking the same way that I do, that are supportive. And yeah, I think you've got to not necessarily cut people out of your life, but just be mindful about, the people that you're spending your time with. And there's probably been 2 occasions in life where I've made a conscious choice to move away from the wrong sort of people and surround myself with the right sort. And like I say, rather be on my own than with the wrong crowd.
Yeah, yeah, very much.
I
And
just
that takes courage too.
it does, and I just can't be dealing with negativity and negative people. It's like I've found it to be one of the biggest drains being around people that moan and complain, and they have jealousy and envy, and it's all they talk about, and it's really not for me. That I'm not that sort of person, and if you're around it, personally, it just sort of drags you down. So find the right people to be around. It's super, super important.
Yeah. I was saying sometimes you have to learn to love people from a distance. When it starts to impact you, you have to make that decision.
I like that one.
Um, I think people always say this, surround yourself with great people. Of course, it's this
Mm,
high level cloud like statement that we all
mm,
know and believe and makes complete sense,
mm.
but no one ever talks about how you do that.
Well,
And I'd love to know how did you do that?
listen, it's a great question, but now the easiest way to do it is listen to podcasts. You might not have to see these people in person, but you can choose what you listen to. And that really is surrounding yourself with great people. You don't need to be with them in person. And I think putting yourself in the right rooms, and me being a northerner, I go and chat to people. So you strike up a connection or a conversation with someone, and just I've always just built relationships organically like that, and put yourself in places where the sort of people you want to be around are hanging out is probably a simple way to do it. But I think what I've really loved in the last few years is just the volume of like amazing podcasts and information I can consume from people that you might never get a chance to meet, but you can really take on their way of thinking and always be learning from them. So I think there's a couple of different ways, but just go and talk to people in real life.
Agree with that a lot.
Yeah.
I think some of my biggest heroes and mentors, the people that have had the most impact in my life, I've never met.
Yeah, some of them are dead actually. They're old
Yeah.
books and things that you read of people that are long gone, but
Right.
you can surround yourself, through things online and through reading.
Mm. Yeah. It's an interesting time. I spoke about it a while ago with a client of mine that was going through this sort of change in direction and adjusting things, removing some things. I talked about it because it's like this idea of it being harder to remove a brick from a wall you've already built. Like you kind of built this world and built this wall,
Mm.
and it's becomes really hard to remove it in one way because you feel like you've laid it yourself, you built the wall yourself, and so you kind of try to make it fit because taking it out or undoing it feels like you fucked up. But then you realize the wrong brick actually weakens everything else around it. No matter how much you try to patch up the cracks, it ends up falling apart at some point or another. And because it's like, as much as it's, of course, easier and great to build the right wall from the ground up from the start, but that's not how life works. We were always evolving, learning, changing, adapting, and growing. And sometimes it takes you to get halfway up the wall before you realize this is not the right brick or this is not the right direction or shape. And you have to either choose to force it or fix it or change it. And I think that's hard, but it's also brave too to be able to do that.
It's brave, and I think it's self-awareness, isn't it? You've got to be aware, and there's a great saying I love, and it's, the longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive it's gonna be to come back. And I've used that for whether it's personal or business or whatever it might be, but just having the ability to course correct and be aware of your environment and who you're around or what it is that's not quite working, and not being scared to make that change if you need to.
Yes. Not everyone's meant to make it to the next chapter.
No, 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 I totally agree with that.
I'm curious what your system is for avoiding burnout when you're on the pursuit of your dreams, Chris, because you're doing a lot of great things. You're training, you're pursuing career, you're doing all these incredible things, books and all sorts.
Mm.
It's a lot. What are some of your biggest systems really for avoiding burnout in that pursuit?
I mean, there's a couple. I think getting out of my environment is one that I've started to use more now. Like I live in London, I love it here, but I just sometimes hit the point where I'm like, I just need a bit of a break and a bit of a reset. And I come from Northumberland. It is just stunning where I'm from. Little town called Hexham, and just simply getting away for a few days. I sacrificed travel for a while, but I've really realized it's a really important way. And I think just getting out of my environment, being somewhere different really helps me avoid that burnout. And let's not forget exercise. And most recently, taking up golf. That's my new thing. And learning something new, learning a new skill. I found so liberating in my 30s to actually be really bad at something and start from complete scratch. It's this like mental focus and almost like a grounding. And actually, I found it to be a great way to get out and just learn to take breaks and, I think it's pretty simple, but a change in environment's a big one for me to avoid the burnout and looking after yourself. Don't run yourself into the ground, and make sure you're eating right and things I think are key as well, because that really impacts your energy levels and your mood.
Yes. A mental break, isn't it? That's the thing for sure. We get locked into these ideas and dreams and pursuits. It's like if that's always on, you just get to a point where you're mentally strained and on overload. You need a little bit of a digest to get away from that.
I always used to think taking time out was gonna be counterproductive, but now I actually look at it as a time to come away, recharge the batteries, and come back more alert, more fresh, and more ready to go, and that's what I've sort of found, like 3 or 4 days somewhere away, whether it be up in Northumberland or abroad or whatever it is, a few days off to recharge, different perspective on things. I generally come back far more productive, feeling energized and rested, and it's taken me a long time to realize that how important it is to do that. So yeah, I think just taking regular breaks.
I used to call it the hustle hangover. I think, we're a similar age, Chris, and this hustle culture has been something that was born in our generation. And certainly in the era of our come up and mine, for sure, I can only speak on my own experience, but yeah, definitely. I talked about this idea of the hustle hangover. You get locked into this pursuit of things and you kind of feel like if you pull off, if you stop, if you slow down, everything's going to fall apart. And while that works to a degree, eventually it sometimes, I think, really becomes a feeling of a prison because you're addicted to more success, more momentum, more pressure, because it's given you something to a degree. It's got you to one place, but eventually it becomes less of you. And you you get stuck with this idea of pushing harder means more success, but it doesn't.
Then you wonder why you're doing it all, because you're burnt out and you're sort of stuck on this, not a hamster wheel, but you're sort of on this relentless pursuit, which is great, but you're not taking any time to appreciate what you're doing or actually enjoying the fruits of your labor. And I think there's a good analogy I heard about, like an aeroplane taking off. Obviously, at the start, you've got to put the work in, and the amount of energy it takes a plane to get off the runway is significantly more than when it's up at altitude. And you're maintaining that, you're cruising, you're still putting the work in, but you don't need to be, because effectively you'll end up running yourself into the ground, kind of thing. But I love what you've just said.
Yeah, so relevant. Love that metaphor, in fact.
Yeah.
So different. Like what gets you from A to B is not the same as B to C. And I think there's a certain level of maturity that comes through that. You have to go through those seasons and get yourself around great mentors because that was always my case. I was just surrounded by these one way thinking patterns that were just work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. While yes, of course, you always have to work hard, but it's the things you work hard on change. I always talk about the fact that I'm never not working hard, but sometimes I might be on business. Sometimes that might be on my own mental sanity. It might be me going to yoga, hot yoga. That's fucking hard, but it's a different kind of hard, right? Because it ultimately all comes back to how you I guess what I'm trying to say is the redefinition of what success is. And in a sense, for me, it became what success is now is how it feels, not how it looks.
Yeah, I think it's a feeling, and I think it's been successful in all areas of your life. I think we're all guilty of at the start of our careers, whatever. It's the measure of success is just work, but actually, how am I feeling mentally? How am I feeling physically? How are my relationships, whether it be like girlfriend or my family? What are my relationships like with my friends? And I think having a working hard on all areas of your life is what's going to make it feel full and fulfilling, is what I found. Sort of had my head down for so many years, and all of these other areas of life become, they just don't feel as important for a period of time. And then you realize, actually, without all of the other things being in place, it just doesn't feel right. And it, like you say, the feeling when you've got all of the things, when you've got to put energy into all areas of your life, I guess is what I'm trying to say. For me personally, to feel fulfilled,
Yes.
relationships, my mental health, my physical health, my friendships, my work, um, doing things that excite me. And I think trying to balance a little bit of time for everything leaves me feeling far more fulfilled.
Right. A lot of awareness that comes with that. Having the awareness to look at those areas, looking at your life buckets and making sure that they're all still moving along and not just one.
Definitely, I think it's like spokes on a wheel, isn't it? You know, if they're all the same length, the wheel's gonna go around, but if 4 of them are out and 2 of them are really high, then, you know, it's gonna be a bit of a clunky ride.
Yes, that's for sure. And what's next for you now, Chris? What's the game? What game are you playing now, and what does the future look like for you?
Right now, I'm working really closely with the most incredible cookware brand called Hexclad, which I just love. I've been working with them for getting on 4 years now, sort of ambassador here in the UK, working with the business, and that's just a really exciting business to be in. It's rapidly growing, such a great product, amazing people, so that keeps me incredibly busy. And I guess another project that I'm about to go into is looking at launching my own wellness concept with a menu in London somewhere, so getting close to finalizing the details on that, but that'll be a really big achievement for me to get that done, to have my own place in London. People can come and eat my food, and it's one of my favorite places. It's in a hotel. So yeah, fingers crossed. There's a lot of work going into that, and marrying for the first time properly my two passions of wellness and obviously my background in food, putting them together to offer this fantastic wellness concept that could potentially be taken to different locations around the world. So yeah, fingers crossed. But that's going to be that's something I've put a lot of time and energy into. A bit like we said earlier, you know, no one sees all the work that goes in behind the scenes to get to that point. But yeah, we're getting there, and also more work with in the automotive space. Do some work with Aston Martin, which is dream come true. I remember being in Monaco, cooking for the launch of the Aston Martin DB12 a couple of years ago, and I just thought, yeah, the sort of sacrifices and the hard times kind of feel worth it when you get to do something like that with a dream project. So more work in that space, more work in the wellness space, continuing to work hard with Hexclad and doing everything I can for that business. So yeah, it's exciting, and doing work on myself as well, you know, trying to stay calm and really think about, you know, looking after myself and building a future and things like that.
Love that. Sounds incredibly exciting,
Mm.
Chris.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see that become to life.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Come and pick me up in the Aston, and we'll go for lunch.
Oh, mate, I'd love to. Yeah, but that to be fair, those are the moments where you have like pinch me moments in my career, and I've had a good number of them, and you know, to get to work for a company like that is just phenomenal. And some of the experiences I've had through it have been fantastic. And I was just reading some stuff that had been sent over before the podcast in terms of like what skills are valuable in this game. And obviously food, yeah, that's a skill. You need to have an ability there, but being a good communicator, because all these doors open, and if you walk through them and can communicate and articulate yourself well, then the opportunities come if you can back up with the results when you have to. I think it's nice to reflect on some of these things I've done and just view the pinch me moments and think about I am proud of the fact I've sort of carved my own lane in this industry, and I've worked on some projects in food and in an avenue that has made me feel fulfilled, and I've had levels of success with it. So yeah, it's nice to do a bit of looking back and also thinking forward to like what's coming up.
Absolutely. If you can't appreciate where you are, you'll never appreciate where you're going.
Oh, it's so true. I heard a great quote from Chris Williamson actually of his podcast Modern Wisdom, and it's something along the lines of he said around the things that you once thought were going to make you happy have probably already happened, and how happy are you now? And it's sort of learning to, I guess, celebrate the successes and enjoy those moments, but you have to set new goals and keep looking forward, like you say.
Totally, man. I was sat around a campfire at the weekend,
Mm.
and I posted about it the other day. I was celebrating a birthday with a few friends, and we were just sat by the beach around a campfire. I just had that thought of very much that, like, those moments are the future good old days. Like, and if we can just embrace that in the moment and realize that,
You know,
that's the thing.
it's so true. Like you live in this moment, I think it's being able to live in the moment and appreciate one day you look back at that as, oh, the good old days. And I already do that with certain things I've done in life, and especially with work, and you look back at certain projects, oh, that was a good, those were the good times. And, yeah, long may they continue. But I think, yeah, reflection's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Here's to many more of those ahead.
Yeah.
Chris, incredible chat with you. Loved every moment of it. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think you've just got to go for it and don't be so bothered about what other people might think if you make that decision to just get started. I read a quote. I remember it was only a couple of weeks before I'd moved to London. It was the start is what stops most people. And it's so simple, but I genuinely think it is. I think people spend months planning ideas or even years thinking about starting something. It is the start that stops most people. And just remember that if you're about to embark on a journey, just give it a go. Because you know what? You might start that. It might not lead in the direction you're hoping for, but it might open 20 new doors and take you a slightly different path and still lead you to a great result. But just don't be afraid to give it a go and don't be scared to, make your own place and carve your own path in this world.
Love that. Appreciate your wisdom, Chris.
Yeah, and also I think just don't be a dick because, you meet plenty of them about, like I think, like, you think I love talking about sort of these quotes and success and all the rest of it, but, like, if you work hard, be nice, and try and have a bit of fun along the way, I think they're 3 really simple things that can lead you in the right direction.
Agreed. Heard that.
It's true though, isn't it? Because there's so much out there, like, so many like, you can go really deep into all of this stuff, but actually, if you're working hard at something you're passionate about, you're enjoying yourself as you go as much as you can, and you just treat people how you want them to treat you, I think is just a really simple way to live your life, whether it's work, pleasure, or relationships, just yeah, it's pretty simple stuff.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Keep it simple.
yeah, keep it simple. Oh, keep it easy. That's the name of my book, Easy, so it's easy.
Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate your time, brother, and your wisdom. It's been an incredible chat. Long may it continue. Can't wait to see your continued rise, and I know we'll get that workout in soon.
100%. Well, thanks for having me on. I love the conversation.